The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents Hope. Hi, everybody. I hope you're well. Hey, look, hope right off the bat. I hope you're well. It's a pretty common word that we use all the time. And when I think about reasons to believe something, for me, the number one priority is whether or not it's true, whether or not I have good reason to be convinced that it's true. And normally, this is a question that I ask people in discussions and debates. Do you care whether or not what you believe is true? Do you care more if it's true than if it's comforting? And recently, someone has flat out identified that, for better or worse, they care more whether it's comforting, which is at least nice to get someone to answer honestly, realizing that this may be a potential problem. But there's a little bit more to what is comforting. And a different way to phrase it. There's an extension of comfort that people often refer to, and that is hope. And I frequently see people saying things like, what hope does atheism offer? Or implying that, Christianity, for example, one example, might offer hope, whereas atheism doesn't. So what is hope? And what hope does Christianity offer? And should that matter, this hope matter, more than truth? Now, spoiler alert, the answer to that last question is a resounding no. Nothing should matter more than the truth. And the truth is an important component of hope. Hope is an expectation of something that you desire. It is a marginal confidence in the face of uncertainty that what you desire will happen, will come to fruition. So when people say that God offers hope or Christianity offers hope or their religion offers hope, what is it that they're talking about? Hope of what or hope for what? What is the desire? And it could be viewed as a hope for someone who cares about them, someone who knows what's going on when they don't know, someone who has their best interests at heart, someone with a guide towards a better life and a better future. But predominantly, the one key hope tied to Christianity is the hope for an afterlife, the hope that when this is all over, you will get to continue, and you will get to do so in a way that is even better and grander. And you hear all the stories of streets paved with gold and other things like that. It's the hope of an afterlife that is probably the most foundational hope within Christendom. Romans 8:24 says, "For in hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopeth for that which he seeth?" Now, when I grew up, I don't know how popular this is now in megachurches, but one of the common things that we would say was, I know that I know that I know that I know that Jesus Christ is Lord. It's an exaggerated, hyperbolic expression of our confidence in Jesus at the time when, of course, I was a believer, which I'm now not. And you would hear things like this frequently. If I know that I know that I know that, expressing incredible confidence. But what they're really talking about is a belief that is rooted in faith. And faith is not evidence. Faith is blind, despite the assertion that it's not. Faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have a good reason. If you have a good reason, and somebody says, why do you believe this? You give the good reason. There's nothing that you couldn't believe based on a foundation of faith. And people constantly say, no, Matt, no, it's not blind faith. It's not blind faith. It's not blind faith. It is a reasonable faith. And yet Romans 8:24 counters that, because who hopeth for that which he seeth? It's literally talking about how if you can see it, you don't hope for it. You don't have faith that it is true. You don't rely on it. Seeing is believing, essentially, is what Romans 8:24 is saying. So in the absence of seeing, therefore blind, you exercise faith. Now, I didn't do this video to talk about faith, blind or otherwise, but about hope. Titus 1:2 says, "In hope of eternal life, which God, who cannot lie, promised before times eternal." And so that verse talks about hope and then follows it up with an unproven assertion that there is a God and that this God can't lie, which isn't true. I mean, if God doesn't exist, then of course it's true that he can't lie, because if he doesn't exist, he can't do anything. He can't tell the truth or lie. But the character of God in the Bible is absolutely capable of deception. So it's very strange that in Titus it says God, who cannot lie, promised before times eternal. Well, before times eternal is a nonsense phrase. Just you can take it as poetry or hyperbole, however you want to do it. But where is this promise of eternal life that's supposed to be giving you hope? But when you say that God cannot lie, that's simply contradicted by what's in the Bible. So for those of you out there who like to find contradictions in the Bible, there are plenty of lists out there that are terrible, that have easily, hand-waved away claims of contradictions. But Titus 1:2 says God cannot lie. And 2 Thessalonians 2:11 says, for this reason, God will send upon them a deluding influence so that they will believe what is false. Now, while this is some flowery-ass language, God will send upon them a deluding influence so that they will believe what is false. What do you call it if someone intentionally deceives someone so that they will believe something that is untrue? That's a lie. That is, 2 Thessalonians 2:11 is God lying. But he doesn't just do it there. 1 Kings 22:23. He says, now therefore, behold, the Lord has put a deceiving spirit in the mouth of all of these your prophets, and the Lord has proclaimed disaster against you. And so basically they're saying God has put a lying tongue or a deceiving spirit in the mouth of their prophets. God gave hardened Pharaoh's heart, gives people over to a reprobate mind. The number of times that God does something that is directly deceptive, or where he partners with Satan to torment Job, or refuses to give people information, or speaks in parables so that people would be confused, all of these things are lies. These are examples of lies. And to say that God cannot lie in Titus 1:2 is contradicted by other verses. But once again, this video isn't about whether or not God lies or can lie. This is about the hope of an eternal life. And one of the things that I frequently hear is, well, what hope does secular humanism offer? What hope does your atheism offer, Matt? Well, we'll get to that. But the implication there is that without Christianity, you have no hope. How sad for you. How sad that you have no hope. You're hopeless. Your life is hopeless. You can hope for nothing. This is all nonsense. But it's rooted on this notion that there is one hope that is more important than any other, and that is hope for an eternal life. And without Christianity, you have no hope for that, and so therefore your life is hopeless, which is a terribly fallacious line of reasoning, because there are plenty of things that I hope for. There are plenty of things that all of us hope for. All it is a desire for something that is possible and that we are capable of reaching. This statement about Christianity basically says that only Christianity has the capability of providing an afterlife. And that is an untrue assertion. It is bizarre to me that it's so obviously not true, and yet people put it forward as if it's the most true thing ever. I made a little graph about hope. There's a quote on there from Emily Dickinson, which I like, despite the fact that it has the word soul in it, because I'm fine with the concept of a metaphoric soul, the character of human beings. But the quote is, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. It's great. It's a wonderful quote that talks about, having the tune without the words. It's always reaching for the complete song, and it drives us, and it makes us want to soar towards something. It is an incredibly powerful, motivating force. And I don't deny that. Hope is a great thing when it's true. False hopes, on the other hand, are vile. And many people have commented on this, including some quotes that I won't even bother with today. But hope is or can be viewed as relying on three factors: desire, here's what you want; the possibility that that desire could come to fruition, is it possible? And then capability, do you have the capability of making that come to fruition? With all three of those in place, you have what I would call a realistic hope. Now, there's another aspect of this that is about whether your hope is for you, the individual, or the hope for humanity. Because on that desire, possibility, and capability front, on capability, the question could be termed as, do you have the time or the means to reach this goal, or can you likely acquire the time and means to reach the goal? And that can be different for humanity than it is for the individual. For example, I don't see any likelihood, I have no hope that we're going to resolve climate change in my lifetime, and no hope that we're going to end irrationality or supernatural thinking and appeals in my lifetime. That doesn't mean that I don't have hope for it for humanity, for future generations. I have some hope that it is possible to reach those goals. If you have all three, if you have desire, possibility, and capability, then you have a realistic hope. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it means you at least have a realistic hope. If you have desire and possibility, but no capability, then you have no hope. It doesn't matter that it's possible. If you don't have the capability to reach that thing, there's a big diamond on Saturn, but if you have no possibility of actually reaching Saturn to get the diamond, then you have no hope. But if you don't know whether or not you have the capability, then you could say you have a weak hope, because you're kind of holding out hope that you might have the capability to do this, or that you might achieve or develop the capability to do this. So if desire and possibility are true, but capability is unknown, you at best have a weak hope. If you have the desire, but you don't know if it's possible or if you have the capability, then you have, with the desire and and you're unsure about two or three, then you have a weak false hope, because you're injecting a yes into either desire or possibility. If you don't have the desire, there is no hope. There can't be hope without the desire, which is why I've put that one over there on the right. If you have desire and capability, which is really confusing because I don't know how you can have capability without possibility, but because of that contradiction, you seem to have a false hope if in fact the capability exists, but you have no hope otherwise. Hopefully the chart clears some things up there a little bit, because this is the key. What does secular humanism offer? What does your atheism offer with regard to hope? Well, humanism offers hope for humanity by desiring the best possible world that we can achieve. And because I've phrased it that way, that means we are talking about an actual hope, a realistic hope. Because what humanism is saying is our realistic hope for humanity, not necessarily for the individual. It may be a weak hope for the individual and a realistic hope for humanity. Because while we may not achieve it in my lifetime, if the goal is the best world that we can achieve, at least we're moving towards it and making progress. And so maybe we reach it in my lifetime. Maybe we don't ever reach it. Maybe we continue to get closer and closer to it. But as long as the goal is to get better, then we have a realistic hope. The Christian hope for an afterlife has the desire, but the possibility has never been demonstrated, and the capability has never been demonstrated. So the possibility and capability are either unknown or are false, in the sense that when we look at things like the concept of a soul, which seems to be essential, or the current only mechanism by which we could have some sort of eternal life, is a concept that has no reason to believe it's real, and plenty of reasons to believe it's not. Because all of the things that we've identified as, or attributed to a soul, are identifiable as functions of a brain, and they're malleable functions of a brain. Under the right conditions, you can wind up with a brain that completely changes so that you have a different personality, a different identity, different desires, different goals. You are essentially not the same person that you were before. And because of that, it makes no sense to talk about a soul. Is your soul just incapable of communicating through your brain and doing what it wants? If so, does it attribute sin from this body, acting? I've done a whole video about the soul as well. But the suggestion is that atheists are hopeless. And while it may be glib to turn it around and say, no, that's not the case. Atheists are the only ones with hope. I would say that atheists are irrelevant, but secular humanists have realistic hope because they have already established that the desires they're going to have, the things that they're going to seek out, need to be realistic. They need to be supported by demonstrations of possibility or probability, and that what we're working towards is the capability, the capacity to make those things actually come to fruition. The Christian hope for an eternal life is a desire with no demonstration of possibility, no demonstration of capability, considerable evidence against the proposition in the nature of brains and souls. And on that front, it means that Christianity's hope for an eternal life is a weak, false hope at best and no hope at worst. I hope that helps. I hope more folks start to care about whether or not an idea is true than whether or not they find it comforting or hopeful. We'll see you next time.